What's up everybody and welcome to a new series, and in this series we're gonna create a command line based connect for game. So therefore let's first see what the final game is actually going to look like. So therefore let me open here the terminal, and then here I'm going to say Python and then game.py. So if I run this file, then we get first asked if we want to play one player mode or two player mode. So let's pick one player mode against the AI, and then here the grid gets depicted. And we are first asked what column we want to play. So let's pick here column 4, and then the move gets executed, and then the AI chooses a respective column. So now let's pick here, for example, column 3. And now let's pick column 2 to see if the AI reacts appropriately. And as you can see, it played column 5, so they did not lose us. And now let's just let the AI win. So therefore I'm simply going to play here column 1 all the time. So again, column 1 another time, and then the AI reacts again, and then play again column 1. So now let's play column 2. Okay, so now in the next move the AI can win if it plays column 3. So let's again simply play column 2. And then as you can see, the AI played column 3, and now it has won because those 4 dots here are connected. And then we are asked if we want to play again, yes or no. So let's simply pick here, in our case, let's pick no. So that's the game that we're going to create in the series. However, before we get started, I want to give a short disclaimer. Namely, I want to specify how I define a beginner project. And here I have 2 points. The first one states that a beginner project uses mainly just basic Python syntax. So the syntax that I've covered here in this Python tutorial series. Link is in the description. And what I mean by that is that there should be a minimal use of libraries and or other additional features. And that's because otherwise you would need to learn about the libraries or other additional features first before you can actually get something done. So therefore, before we get started with the game, I quickly want to mention and explain the things that I used in this tutorial that are beyond the basic Python syntax. Namely, the libraries that we're going to use are as follows. We're going to use the time module, the random module, and the copy module. And all of these modules here are part of the Python standard library, which means that they are already included when you install Python. So then from the time module, we're going to use the sleep function, which simply makes the program wait for a specified amount of time. So to show that, let's import here time. And then here, let's simply say print hello. And then let's also say print world. So if I run it like this, then it simply immediately prints hello and world. However, if I put here a statement in between that where I say time.sleep, and then let's say we want to wait for 3 seconds, then if I run it like this, then it prints here hello, and then waits for 3 seconds, and then prints out here world. So this is how the sleep function works. Then next, from the random module, we're going to use the choice function, and this simply lets you randomly select an element from a sequence. So to show that, let's import here random, and then let's create a list that contains the numbers 1, 2, and 3. And now let's say random.choice, and then here we put in our list. And then if I run it, then we get in this case a 1. And if I run it again, then we get here a 2. And if I run it again, we can again get a 2. So let's see if we also can get here the 3. So now we have here the 3. Okay, so that is how the choice function works. And then lastly, from the copy module, we're gonna use the deep copy function, which creates a deep copy of an object. And this is useful when you are working with nested data structures. So therefore, to show that, let's import the copy module. And now let's create here a nested data structure. So we're going to use a list, and then here the first element of this list is going to be another list, which contains then here a 1. And then the other elements here are 2 and 3. And now let's create first a shallow copy of this list. So we're going to say b equals a.copy. And then let's also create a deep copy. So we're going to say c equals copy.deep copy. And then here we put in our a. So now with that, we've created here a shallow copy and a deep copy of a. So now let's change something about a. Namely, we want to change here this 1 within this inner list. So therefore, we're going to say a brackets 0 to get first this inner list. and then again bracket 0 to get to this 1. And then here we're going to set that equal to 99. And then if we look here at A, then obviously this one here has changed. Now we have the 99. And if we look at B, then you can see that this has also changed, even though we created here a copy. But that's because we only created here a shallow copy. So therefore, let's also look here at C. And then here you can see that this one actually hasn't changed, and that's because we created here this deep copy. And this behavior has something to do with mutability, which I have also covered here in this Python tutorial series. So if you want to know more about that, then I will put a link to that video into the description. Okay, so with that now we've covered here those libraries that we're going to use in this series. And then there are also some other additional features. Namely, we're going to make use of some specific Unicode characters. Namely, we're going to use the black circle character, which looks like this, and that I've simply used to indicate here or to represent those disks of the Connect 4 game. Then we're also going to use the white circle character, which looks like this, which looks like a hollow circle, and that I simply use to indicate which 4 disks here are connected. And then lastly, we're also going to use the overline character, which looks like this, and that I have simply used here at the bottom of this grid. Okay, so those are the Unicode characters that we are going to use. And then we're also going to make use of some ANSI escape codes. And the first one is for the color red. So this simply lets us print something in red to the terminal. So to demonstrate that, I've prepared here this code snippet. So here I'm simply saying print hello world, hello universe, and we do that twice. And now if I run this in the terminal, so if I say Python and then scratchpad.py, then if I run it like this, then it simply prints everything here in white. However, if I now use here this escape code for the color red and put this in front of world, and then run it again like this, then you can see now everything after that is printed in red. So then the next escape code is for the color yellow. So this has simply then here the number 33. So for example, if I then change here this to a 33 and then run this here again, then you can see now everything gets here printed in yellow. And then the next escape code is for a color reset. So this lets us simply reset the color. So if I copy this and then paste it here after the word and then run it like this, then you can see now only here world has been written in yellow. Okay, so those are the first 3 escape codes that are related to changing the color. Then the next escape code clears the line without moving the cursor. And to demonstrate that, I've prepared here this code snippet. So let's copy and paste this. So here I'm printing hello. And I'm setting the end parameter equal to an empty string because by default it is a new line character. And then afterwards I simply print here word. So now if I run it like this, then it prints here simply hello world. However, if I now use here this clear the line escape code and put that in between that, so if I say here print there's that escape code, and then again we're going to set this end parameter equal to an empty string, then now if I run it like this, then the output looks like this, where here this hello has been cleared. Okay, so that is then this clear the line escape code. Then the next escape code moves the cursor up n lines. So to demonstrate that, I've prepared here this code snippet. So again, let's run this first to see what it looks like. So this simply prints out 3 minus signs and then 3 plus signs. So now let's use this escape code here to move the cursor around. So let's put here a print statement in between that. And then we're going to use this escape code. And first we're going to move up by 1 line. And here again, we're going to set the end parameter equal to an empty string. So now if I run it like this, then you can see that there are now only 2 minuses. So this third minus here was overprinted because we moved the cursor up by 1 line. And then if I move it up by 2 lines, then the output now looks like this, where there's only this 1 minus sign. And then lastly, if I move the cursor up 3 times, then we are going to overprint all those 3 minus signs. Okay, so that is this move cursor up n lines escape code. And then lastly, we're also going to make use of some escape codes to hide the cursor and then show the cursor again. So to demonstrate that, I've prepared this code snippet here. So again, let's first run it to see what it looks like. Namely, here we have this animation where the cursor here is still depicted at the front of the line. So therefore now let's hide the cursor by using this escape code. So if I put it into this print statement and then run it like this, then you can see that the cursor is now hidden and the animation looks a little bit cleaner. However, there's one problem with this approach, namely after the file has been executed, the cursor here is still hidden. So if I type something here, then you can see that there is no cursor. So therefore, we need here this escape code to show the cursor again. So therefore, we're going to put this here into this print statement. And then if I run this file again, then we get here our animation without the cursor. However, when it's done, then the cursor here is again depicted. Okay, so those are the ANSI escape codes that we're going to use in this tutorial. And with that, now we've covered here all my notes with respect to the first point of how I define a beginner project. And then the second point states that a beginner project follows the iterative process guideline. And this guideline here also comes from this Python tutorial series. And it basically says that coding is an iterative process where you first try to make it work, then make it readable, and then lastly, make it fast. And this last step here, in my opinion, is not really necessary for a beginner project. So the goal of this series is not going to be to create the most optimized code for a Connect 4 game or the most optimized code for an AI within that game, but instead the goal is simply going to be to create a Connect 4 game that works and that consists of nicely structured and readable code. Okay, so those are the 2 points that I want to cover with respect to how I define a beginner project. And with that, then we've covered here this disclaimer that I wanted to give. Okay, so now let's get an overview of how we will go about creating this game. And therefore, I've created here this to-do list. And here we have those first 3 main sections. So first we're going to work on the basic game mechanics. Then we're going to work on the AI opponent. And then we're going to work on the game aesthetics. And then lastly, we also have this bonus section here where we simply want to refactor the code into a class. So those are the 4 main steps that we're going to take in order to create this game. So now, lastly, I also want to show you where you can find the respective code for the series. So therefore, you can simply go to this GitHub repo here. Link is in the description. And then here you can download the code. And just a side note, the commits that I've created here for this repository, they are based on the to-do list. So here we also have game mechanics, AI opponent, game aesthetics, and then the refactor of the code into a class. Okay, so with that now, we've done all the necessary preparations and we can start building the game. And we're going to start with the game mechanics here. And more specifically, we're going to create first some helper functions. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. So thanks for watching and hopefully I will see you in the next video.